But the
Bigfoot,
Nephilim is like, aren't they like red-haired?
They are, yeah, they're red-haired, yeah. So
Let me ask you a question.
let's hear it.
What do you know about cryptids? Do you think Bigfoot's real? I'm just going to come right out with it. Do you think the Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Sasquatch, the skunk ape, you can lump them all together?
Yes, I do. I think that it is real. What? That's like...
You just definitively said yes, I think it's real.
But...
Hi, welcome back. Episode 4. Fishing is a simulation, I guess. We'll get a little, we'll get more into that in a little bit. But before we get into the topics, which by the way, the topics are, we're just going to talk about Christmas time. Happy Merry Christmas, whatever it is.
Merry
Happy
Chrysler.
Happy Hanukkah.
Merry Crimbus.
And Branson had a baby.
Yes, I did.
We said last episode, Branson was about to have a baby. But Branson had a baby. Well,
Yes.
Tell us about the baby.
Okay, so yes, we had a... For people who do not know, we did not know the gender, of course.
That's what you say.
We didn't.
I don't know if I believe you or
I
not.
swear. So we actually just opened the envelope last night.
All right, that's fair.
So
Was it right?
it was right,
All right.
which I've heard that sometimes they do get it wrong. There's a few instances where,
Wait, the medical industry did something wrong?
surprisingly,
Wow,
yeah,
you don't
it's
say.
Pretty crazy.
That's shocking to
Yes.
me.
We were induced December 1st, which was a Friday. And the reason why we were induced, long story short, so my wife Jessie has had some medical issues. We've had 4 miscarriages before this, and they just wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay before the baby was born. So we went Friday at 8 o'clock at night to get medically induced. So essentially what happened was we show up to the hospital, 8 o'clock. They don't get things going until like 9:30. And they give her this medicine called Cytotec. Cytotec is a medicine that
Turns you into a cyborg.
cyborg, yes.
Okay, RoboCop.
Yeah, exactly. Beep, bop, boop. Yeah. That starts the contractions and like induces you into labor. So nothing was weird. Everything was fine. Started that about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I fall asleep and I wake up to like 8 nurses in the room.
What time?
At like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night.
So you got like what, maybe 2 hours of sleep?
Maybe,
give or
yeah.
take.
Like
you can sleep anywhere, by the way.
I can literally sleep anywhere and through anything, and that is like 100% true now.
Would you say that's your biggest takeaway from the Army?
Yes,
that you can sleep
for
anywhere.
Sure. I can literally sleep standing up.
Thank you, United States Armed Forces.
Anyways, so I wake up to like 8 nurses in the room.
Okay.
Jessie is in the middle of all them, and they're checking her, saying, we can't feel the heart rate. We can't find the baby. There's nothing. There's no pulse. There's no sign of anything. And, of course, with everything that we've been through,
Right.
I'm freaking out.
How was Jessie?
She was calm. We were both calm. Like, I was fine.
Yeah,
like,
it was just like a shock of you don't know what's happening.
I had no idea what was going on. All that I heard was when I woke up in the middle of this, too. This happened for 10 minutes. They couldn't find the baby. So,
And you were asleep for the first half of it?
yes, pretty much everything. So I, yeah, it's pretty impressive on my end that I was able to sleep through that. But so all I hear is prep OR, get anesthesia ready, and emergency C-section. So
Okay.
I'm like, holy crap, like what is happening? I am freaking out on the inside, but I'm staying calm because I know that's what I need to do. Anyways, long story short, the medicine that they gave her was making Jessie contract every minute, which is like a lot.
Yeah.
And it was putting pressure on her, on Scout, which is her name. And it would make her freak out and she didn't like it. So her heart rate would drop. So like they had to like get Jessie like on her side, left, right, you know, sit up, sit down, just to make sure like
their like protocols.
she could survive.
Yeah.
So this happens and they're like, all right, everything's fine. If it keeps happening though, like I want to let you know, like you are going to get a C-section. And of course it happens again. Doctor comes in. He's like, all right, let's get this thing done.
Yeah.
I get garbed up.
Yeah.
And
Nice. Two sets of gloves?
then, no, not 2 sets of gloves, but I was wearing sandals, so I had to wear these like booties on, which is kind of weird.
Hairnets on your feet?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. And then I had like this huge suit on and everything. And then,
I got the picture.
yes,
It's a pretty
yeah,
good picture.
I sent it to you.
Yeah. You look
and
like
then-
you were cooking meth in a RV somewhere.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what I looked like.
Yeah.
And I got all ready. We went to OR, and at 2:15 December 2nd, Scout Riley Morton was born. So, and
What a journey.
it was pretty crazy. So, and throughout all that, of course, Jessica had to get an epidural, and they're like, hey, if the epidural doesn't hold, then she has to go under, and you can't be in there. So if that happens,
Yeah.
tough luck. So our doctor is kind of like a robot though. And which is nice because he's like super even keeled.
Yeah, but
no
to the
emotion.
point. To the point. Like, let you know what's going on.
Like literally he didn't say.
I can appreciate that.
It was nice actually because like he didn't say anything to me until he went in there and he just looks at me and goes, everything's going to be fine. And just walked through the door. And I'm like, all right, let's do this thing.
Sweet.
So it was nice. And then we were at the hospital for like 5 or 6 days and then we're back. So yeah.
What a story. Awesome. I'm glad you were willing to share kind of the pre-up to that because you guys got married December of 21, correct? 22?
No, 20.
No, 2020. I'm sorry. Okay, so you guys have been married 3 years this year.
Yep.
So you guys have had 4 miscarriages in 2 years, which is
sucks.
Crazy to think about. I'm sorry. And yeah, I mean, really, it's more like 2.5 because obviously, you know, nine, almost 10 months ago and change now, she got pregnant with Scout. And I mean, just knowing, like, outside of this table in the shop, like we're still best friends. Like we work together, all of that stuff, but all of that has come through our friendship. So just kind of, I guess, me and Emily going on the journey in a way with you guys, the fact that you guys got to this place is just, I don't know, it's pretty incredible.
It's wild. I mean, it's
you're a
crazy
dad
to
now.
think.
There's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Like Jesse's healthy, Scout's healthy.
Yeah.
Everybody's good.
And that was the nice thing, honestly, about the C-section was like, if we didn't, I would have to worry for hours and hours and hours. Whereas he's like, we're getting the C-section, so it's happening.
Right.
And it made me feel so much more relaxed and calm because it was like, all right, it's gonna be fine. Like nothing's gonna go wrong because the baby's gonna be here in like 30 minutes. So, and it was that fast. So.
Wow. It's such a relief, like, for us when, like, Jesse had been texting Emily a lot that night, and I remember, like, finally getting the text at, I don't know, like 2:30 or whatever I think it was her. Yeah, it was Jesse holding her first, and it was just like, what a weight off of our shoulders of just like, wow, we have a healthy baby and we have a healthy Jesse. So, and you're good. So it's like, wasn't worried about you. You're fine. But it was fine. But just like getting to that point of, incredible. What's your first week of being a dad? What's it been like?
It's been awesome. I mean, it's been really good.
I mean, you guys are in the honeymoon phase, right? Of tiny baby. You've had a lot of help. You got meals coming your way, all that good stuff. So it's like, but you guys have now had a little bit of time, just like probably the two of you.
Yeah.
I
enjoy it actually more, to be honest. Like, the help was nice, but I wanted to do this with us, you know, and the meals have been awesome, and like it's been a huge help, like you all bringing food to us, and that's been the best thing I would say. But like the fact that like we can do it together, like I enjoy it a lot, and she's really easy. I mean, she sleeps, she poops.
You have a really good baby.
Yeah, we
do.
Have a really good baby. She doesn't cry. I mean, like literally, she just sits there and just looks around, and then she'll just fall asleep.
What's her? Okay, I'm curious because, like my nephew. So I had 2 babies this week too, in my on the other side of the family. So a niece and a nephew. My new nephew, he sleeps good during the day, but he's up all night long. Scout, like
she'll be up for 2 hours, and then it's fine from 8 to 10 at night. And it's perfect because that's right in between, like, or right around feeding time. Yeah. So, like, by the time on the back end when we feed her, she's out. And she'll sleep the entire night.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
So good. Yeah, you guys fortunate there for sure.
Well, we've definitely been blessed. God has blessed us with that, and we prayed for a calm baby to make it easy for us, and He provided for sure.
He granted that for sure. Yeah. So amazing. Yeah. What a cool story. Thanks for sharing all of that. Especially the pre-stuff beforehand. I don't think hardly anybody knows the journey that you guys have been on.
No, not many.
And a lot of people deal with stuff like that, but I think to the level that you guys did, and to continue to, like, it was never an issue to get pregnant. It was just making it past that, 10-week, 11, 12-week, whatever it was, mark, just for whatever reason. And then here she is. So it goes by really fast. Yes. Long days, short years, but you guys aren't even in the long days phase yet. So, but... you want to talk about fishing for a few minutes, and then
for sure
we got some good.
I'm excited to talk about the fishing stuff today because it was funny when you said like you had like the idea of what you wanted to talk about. It was something, and I didn't say this to you when you called me, but it was something that I wanted to talk about because I think it's very, very important. Yeah. So
topic wise, like we've talked about how we fished growing up, a little bit about like how we fish now, but per se, like to get a little deeper into that. I want to hit on equipment. What do we use specifically, kind of for each thing? We both do kind of all of it. I would say we're really the only ones in the shop that kind of do. So we fly fish, we spin fish inshore, and have bait casters, and we offshore fish. So we have gear that goes according to the thing. However, I think there can be a misconception, and there's definitely there are definitely exceptions to this rule. If you look at this wall and you understand who all of these belong to, it's one person. So like, there are definitely guys that will spend a lot of money on fishing gear.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then
one of them. I mean, I'll admit to it.
Right, but at the same time, I fall on the other end of that spectrum. I keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because I have other things I'd rather spend money on, or that I have to spend my money on, like my house, my kids. Like I don't, like it'd be nice. Plus, so I keep it simple. I have one fly setup. That's it, and it's an 8-weight.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, because of my brother and because of you, even though you reel on the wrong side.
Yes.
If I need something, like if I'm going tarpon fishing, like I can borrow a reel from Alex. That's fine. A rod and a reel from Alex. That's no problem at all. So I guess maybe I don't fit into that scheme, but like the stuff that I own, it's good quality. It's not the best, but it's good quality. It works really well. I'm comfortable with it, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So just to go through my equipment list real quick.
Let's start with let's start with inshore, because I feel like that's a good one to start on.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So inshore, I'll do fly because I only have one fly setup. So that's simple for me. I have Tibor Everglades, orange, to match my hair.
Yeah.
It is Sunset Orange, I believe it is called. And I have a Sage R8 Salt. It is a 8-weight. It's a super nice rod.
It's really
and
really nice.
And again, it was a gift.
Yes.
So I would never spend $1,000 on a fly rod with the amount of fly fishing that I do and the amount that I know about it. It's like it'd be like a wine guy buying $1,000 bottle of wine. Like, there's guys that can appreciate that, and then there's guys that it tastes like red wine. Like that's me with fly fishing.
But the difference between that, though, is you know how to use it, though.
I do.
Yes, I know don't need a lot, but you're a very good fly fisher.
Well, action wise, I know what I like. I like something that loads a little slower.
Yep.
And I think the R8 is kind of a fast rod, but but like, to me, fly fishing reminds me a lot of golf. Obviously, golf is like my nerd thing. Did it for a while. I know the equipment. I know the swing. All of that stuff. You shouldn't make the swing to the club specs. It should be the opposite. So again,
sense.
Should you critique the swing? 100%. Should you have good mechanics? 100%.
Yeah.
But how you get from address of the ball back to the address of the ball at your so from the start to the bottom of your swing, that's all that matters. What happens in between is completely up to you, and everybody's different. It's the same thing in a fly cast. However, I don't think, if my natural action is slow, why should I make myself catch up to the rod?
I agree, and that's why you like Sage, I think, because it's like that. The best way I like to describe a Sage rod is, if you like Sage rods, you're gonna like Sage rods.
But if you don't, you're not going. They don't really have a rod for you per se.
Yes.
So whereas like Alex, on the other hand, he likes Hardy's, especially the one piece. I've thrown a one piece. It's nice. It's super accurate. It's a workout for me to throw because I think it's heavy. I also think it's too fast for me. I am trying to throw this rod, whereas the R8 feels like an extension of my arm. Even more so, like, you can laugh at me all you want, I like the Mangrove Coast.
I know you do.
It's idiot proof.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, and again, I don't spend time practicing. I only go out to fish. So to make a rod that, again, in my opinion, is like idiot proof, that's the Mangrove Coast for me. The Sage just feels like an extension of my arm, where I don't have to change my action to match the rod. Whereas like the Hardy, like if I was using like a 12-weight or fishing off the beach, tarpon fishing, like I want a fast action rod that has not necessarily no feel, but I don't really care about that. I'm just looking for something that I can pick up a lot of line with, which is something I don't have to do when I redfish. But by the way, I did redfish the other day. I'll get into this, and I'll tell you what I saw. I didn't catch a darn thing, obviously.
Well, yeah, of course.
But it was pretty great. I'll tell you about that in a second. So more or less, that's my fly setup.
What kind of line do you have on that?
That is a SA Amplitude. It's textured. Again, came from Alex. It's an 8-weight. Yeah. The first couple times I used it, I sliced my fingers up, but now I have a decent callus going where it's okay. But I don't like the textured line per se.
It's weird.
I have a bonefish line as well. I just haven't put it on yet. But again, it's perfectly fine. It works.
Does what you need it to.
Sure. It works exactly how I need it to. Like, again, I'm not good enough at it to realize or to know exactly how I need to build this out. I know it works. I know it works well. I'm sure there's a better way to make it, but I don't really care. At the end of the day, like I'm not that much of a nerd about it. I am about golf. Yeah. But I'm not about fly fishing.
And I would say that is more important with fly fishing is, like you just said, building it out, is having the right line on the rod and all that, because that plays a huge difference in any other fly fishing than any other style of fishing, and like your leaders and all that. So, and
I had some other fly setups a while ago, and I got rid of all my fly fishing stuff when I started having kids because I just didn't have time for it. So I got rid of a lot of that stuff, and I had several more setups than that. When I first got this Everglades, I thought it weighed a ton, and I mean it is kind of a heavy reel. But once you start throwing it, it doesn't feel heavy. It feels very, very well balanced.
It's perfect.
So when you just hold the reel in your hand, you're like, man, this thing is a brick. But you put it on a rod and you start swinging it.
You're like, this is really nice.
It's really nice. It works really good. So so that's fly setup. My inshore, again, I keep it very simple. And I have a couple of different ones, but for the most part, they're pretty much all the same. My main is a Twin Power XD 3K, and this is my first. I had what's the blue and gold one again? Is that the HD?
The
other Twin Power?
Yeah, the FD.
The FD. That, okay. Yeah, I had an FD before that, and a 4K, and
it was okay.
That was when I first wanted to consolidate my inshore stuff and just basically go to one setup. And because I had a 3K, a 4K, I had a couple tarpon setups too that I would kind of mix into that category. But I also had 2500 and a bunch of other things that I was just I just have too many rods and reels. There's too much going on. I don't have the storage for it. So I wanted to consolidate, and I got I wanted to get one setup that was too big, but I could still snook fish with in the summer, but I wouldn't lose all the feel where I couldn't go out and throw lures at the same time that maybe weren't Yozuri pencils, which is rare.
Yes.
So I had the 4K, and I had a 7.6 bull bay sniper, medium heavy, 8-17.
I thought it was a medium on that.
No, it was medium heavy. On the 4K it was.
Okay.
So again, hated it. I just nothing wrong with either product.
Yeah.
I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. It didn't feel like what I was used to. So I got a 3K Twin Power XD. Love it. I think it's got 22 pounds of drag, which is, for what I do, it's completely fine. And I have a Stealth Sniper X, so with the new eyes, 7.6. I think it's the 6-12 medium.
Yeah, it is.
And it's great. The feel wise, again, there's plenty of other rods that are in that same category that would be great. I just like the feel. It's super light. I like a split grip. At least I do now. I used to have Avids, and I still have some Avids. But as far as what I do every day, or the fishing style that I like to do most, which is the wading, by my house, this works perfect. So 15-pound line, usually a 15 or 20-pound leader. I usually don't go any more than 20. Not for fishing in Safety Harbor. So that's my inshore setup. It's kind of covers the board on everything for me. I have an older 2500 Stratic on a 7-foot medium. That's my wife's setup, and it's an Avid Pearl. I actually really like that rod.
That is one of the greatest rods ever, and it looks good
liked
too.
It. Well, yeah, I mean it's pink, but
but it looks nice. It's if you were to give some that to a present, to your wife or your girlfriend, they would, even if they don't like to fish, they would want to use that rod because it was so cool. Yeah.
I have my younger brother who's sitting over here editing.
Yes.
I have 2 of his setups that he probably doesn't even know I have. I actually have 3. So, two older ballistics. You remember the Daiwa ballistics? Yep. Those reels are 15 years old.
Those ones are really old ones you have.
Smooth as butter.
Yep, they are.
The drags don't chop, nothing. Yep. Those reels, that's my old... What?
Because they never caught anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Those are cut bait rods for sure. Those are both on Avids. I mean, again, if I had to like keep one setup of it, like those things are just workhorses. Yeah. So they're still super smooth. The drags, like I said, they don't chop or anything. They just need line like every other year because they don't get used much. But those are like if I take the family on the boat and we're going to cut bait fish, like those are the first ones that go out like on one side of the boat. And then like, I'll power fish with the other one or whatever.
Question for you on that, since you brought that up, with your main, your twin power, your 3K that you have, do you feel like it does everything like cut bait, live bait, like paddle tails and top waters? Like, do you feel comfortable using that?
Yeah. I would say the only thing where I feel like I can get in a little bit of trouble. So if I'm structure fishing, so again, make fun of me if you want. I have a bunch of kids, and when I do get on the boat, I get like 30 minutes to fish. Yeah. So if I'm going to do it, and I want it to be entertaining, not just for me, but for them, I will throw cut bait up into mangroves or around docks.
There's nothing wrong to catch fish, especially redfish on cut bait, because it works really, really well.
Right. So the only thing I would say is if I'm in a tight spot, and so like a creek mouth or something, and there's a lot of those around the bay where you can get back into those mangrove pockets and skip baits up on. I get worked in there every once
you
in a
remember
while.
What happened to us that one time?
So February we went out, which I know is crazy, but it was that long ago. And we had found a school of like thread fins on the way to where we were going. We were going to fly fish that day.
We were.
And we found a school of thread fins. So we took advantage of it, got thread fins, started chumming back in this area after we'd fly fish, and we had basically gotten the middle finger from every redfish that we saw. We saw plenty of fish.
Oh yeah, of course.
But we went in and got destroyed by it. We both hooked that same snook, and we both got destroyed on it.
You couldn't stop them.
To me, that's where you need a 4 or a 5K, a medium heavy, a heavy, a shorter rod. I like a 7.6. Yeah. I think a 7, like I said, like a higher line class medium heavy, like a 10 to 20, or even a heavy. But again, I'm not going to spend money on a setup just for dock, which I don't fish docks that much anymore. When I lived in the intercoastal, I did. Yeah. Or when I fished the intercoastal, I did. But for like getting worked back in the trees, that's the only thing I think my setup is not ideal for. But throwing lures, chasing schools of fish on flats, it's great. Like it's got enough power, but it's not ridiculous where you're just going to reel in a set of lips, if you set the hook. And
I think that's where we kind of differ on some of our setups, and I'll get into that, of course.
Yeah, but basically I have a 2500 on like a 7-foot medium. I have a 7.6 medium with a 3K, and then I have a couple of those ballistics. Those are 3Ks on 7-foot avid inshore mediums, and then I have like another one of Adam's setups, a 2500 Stratic on a 7.6 medium sniper, which I don't think he knows that I have that one, but it's sitting at my house, and I don't know why, but it ended up somehow at my house. But basically, like if I go out, 3 rods I'll take, not including a fly rod, and mainly they're just backup. So I'll keep a Yozuri pencil on at all times. I'll usually keep a hook, just like a bare hook, and like a free line, with like a 2-aught circle, or like a cutting point owner or something like that, and that's pretty much it. So I try to keep it simple, just for the sake of I want to maximize my time when I'm actually out there. Yes. But we'll get into this again. You talk about your inshore equipment, and then we'll get into kind of
the offshore stuff,
but also then kind of our style of fishing per se, because it's definitely different, and we also do different things. Like, yes, we wade together, but you do some other things, and we both at the same time have access to boats. So when you talk about your inshore stuff real quick, then we'll talk about offshore, and then we'll talk about kind of our styles.
Okay. Yeah, so my inshore fishing, so I'm a little bit, let's start with fly.
Anyway, sorry, go.
Yeah, I have maybe a little bit more fly setups than you do.
Yeah.
I think I'm up to 15 T-bores right now.
Ridiculous.
That's not including some other ones, but that's neither here nor there. And I I collect them just like Alex, for sure. I mean, it's a collection to me. Like, it's an investment, and I want to have them forever. Like, I'm never getting rid of my T-bores.
Kind of like guns.
Exactly, yeah. So I have every weight from 4 all the way up to, I have some big stuff that's like 13, 14, 15 weights.
You have Pacifics?
I don't have a Pacific, but I have a Billy Pate Bluefin, which is ridiculously rare.
Is that the black back with the silver front?
It is, yes.
And it's got like the old style like crank handle on the front.
Yeah. They only made a few of them, and mine's right hand retrieve, which is like ridiculously rare.
Yeah, reel on the wrong side.
Because I reel on the wrong side, like you said.
Idiot.
All of my reels, except for a few, are T-bores, and I have a few 8 weights. But typically, more often than not, I'm picking up my 9-weight signature, and it is on a Hardy Zane Pro 9-weight as well, and it's a 1-piece. The reason why I like the 1-piece is one, a little bit different for you with all of my rods. All of my rods are Zane Pros, or Zane Hardys and Loomis's, NRXs.
What's your other reels? You said you have mostly T-boards. What's your other reels?
I have a few Ables.
Okay.
I have a few Hardys, and then I have some Nautilus as well.
Okay.
Those are more of just like sitting on a, like,
you don't really use
wall.
them. You pretty much only use T-boards.
I do. I exclusively use T-boards because the drag is, in my opinion, the best in the world. It's super smooth.
That's fair.
But a little bit different from you with the rods is you like the Sage. You like a little bit slower of a rod. I like a ridiculously fast rod. I want to get out as much line as quickly and as fast as possible. And I don't like to false cast. I like to freaking just shoot line out as quickly as I can. That's why I like the 1-piece rods, because they are faster, a little bit lighter. And the rod that I use more often than anything right now is my 9-weight signature. Reason why is because I do a lot of paddleboard fishing,
and that's a 1-piece Hardy on it. It is
a 1-piece, yeah. I like it because it has more power.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about it coming apart,
right.
And the reel is fully sealed. Yeah. So I don't have to, if I drop it.
Important for a paddleboard,
it is,
especially.
For sure. Yeah, because I've dropped it in the water before multiple times. I've dropped my Everglades in the water too. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but just knowing that the seal on the signature is better, it makes me just feel better whenever I fish it.
You're hard on gear.
I am very hard on gear.
Tools, not jewels.
Yes, exactly. And the reason why I'm hard on gear is because I know that the stuff that we use is expensive and it's going to last. Yeah. And if you spend the money and you are going to beat it up, it's going to hold up and it's going to last. There's a few things that I take care of, but for the most part, I beat my stuff up. There's no doubt. The lines that I use, typically I'm using bonefish lines because the rods are faster, so it needs to be a little bit faster of a line to get it out.
Something with a faster shooting tip on it.
Yes. Yeah. I will say we here at Tailwater Outfitters are creating our own taper.
Are you even supposed to say that?
I'm going to say it anyways. We're creating our own line, and it is incredible.
Who's it with again?
With Rio.
Okay.
So it's going to be sweet. It's
coming soon to Tailwater Outfitters.
Really nice. I've never put line out that quickly with a rod before. I literally dumped 100 feet with one cast. It was impressive. Yeah. And I'm a decent fly fisherman, but it was pretty cool. But typically most of my fly setups are Zane Pros and NRXs with T-bores.
NRXs are insanely fast to me, even faster than the Hardys.
They are for sure, and they're a little bit lighter, I would say.
Yeah.
The Marksman that Hardy came out with is very similar to the NRX.
Yeah, I haven't thrown one, a Marksman.
It's similar. I can't, if you were to give me either, I'd be happy with either. I really wouldn't say like, I want this one or I want that one. It doesn't matter to me because they're both great rods. When you spend $1,000 on a rod, it should be good.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that should be like the common thread through this maybe is when you spend the money, it should be good.
Yeah.
But typically that's my everyday, I'm going to go and fish in the evening or during the day setup is that 9-weight. From time to time, I will take my Everglades because, like you said, it is on a rod. It feels perfect.
Yeah,
I mean,
it just balances for whatever reason.
So nice. And from time to time, I will use some lighter weights. I'll use a 6 or a 7. My 6-weight is super fun to use, especially on the beach for snook because there's nothing for them to run into. So you can use a little bit lighter of a rod and have some fun with it. But I still think for here and for what we're all doing, that 8 and 9-weight is
it's
perfect.
pretty much perfect.
9-weight is sometimes a little too heavy, for some people. But I've noticed with the paddleboard fishing, it definitely helps a lot more.
Yeah.
So that's typically my fly fishing setups that I'm going to use. Now, kind of transitioning to the other side, the spinning, inshore spinning. I have a few, not many though. I mean, typically I'm bringing one with me like you do, that I'm just going to use religiously.
Yeah.
My setup that I typically use, but I just had to retire it, was a 2500 sustain.
Yeah.
And it was an old one. It was the blue with
She's
the
been
foam.
Through it, yeah.
That's like the greatest reel ever created.
Yeah.
I've dunked it like 6 times, and it still holds up.
Did you have what rod was on that again?
That was a legend, OG legend.
One of the
inshore.
original legends, though.
St. Croix.
The best legend that they made.
The rod is incredible. I broke an eye on it, and I can't use it right now, and it really upsets me.
Which eye?
It's like the third one down.
Oh,
no, yeah,
gosh,
I know it
that
sucks.
Sucks.
But that rod and that reel, for what I typically used it for, which was throwing pencils or paddle tails, it was perfect. It's a 7-foot medium heavy on a 2500. Most people think that's weird.
Yeah,
and it is weird.
To me, that's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
The reason why I like that, though, is because it is ridiculously stiff, but still stupid light.
Yeah.
So I can bomb those pencils. And, I mean, you've witnessed it. I can outcast just about anybody with a 7.6 or an 8-footer.
That's true, but you have a setup now.
Yes.
That's casting-wise insane.
Yes.
I'm still... What's your new set? Tell everybody what your new set.
So to replace that sustain, I treated myself.
Yeah,
and
you did.
I got a Van Stahl, the X2.
Yeah.
And it's a 50 bailed.
50, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And the reel
it's
a IMX Pro Blue, a G Loomis.
It's a 7-foot medium heavy as well.
It's a 7-foot medium heavy as well. It's a little different, though.
Yeah.
It's a heavier setup.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I exclusively use it for pencils, for rosary pencils, for top water.
And your paddleboard.
Yes,
that was the other reason. That was a brilliant thing, if you ask me, on your part, was getting a fully sealed reel for, like, if you've never used a Van Stahl, or you don't really know what Van Stahl is, you would not equate it to a $1,000 reel because it does not feel like it when you're reeling it. Like, you look at it, it's beautiful. Like, it's a thing of beauty. But then you reel it and you're like,
feels kind of weird.
Feels weird.
Yeah,
it's stiff.
not as
it's heavy.
Smooth.
You have to kind of understand, I think, what a Van Stahl is, but also at the same time, the reel has gotten smoother with time, which it will continue to.
For sure. Yeah.
But again, kind of back to your comment about your signature series. It's a fully sealed spinning reel. It's perfect for a paddleboard, especially if you don't have a tackle rack. If you do have a tackle rack, great. But you still might dunk the board.
It's still going to get
and
wet.
You still might fall. You again, waves, whatever. It's a paddleboard. It's you're standing 2 inches above the water. But especially if you don't have a tackle rack and you just lay that thing down, because when I steal your board to take it out, I don't take the tackle rack. I just lay stuff down.
Yeah.
So I have to, I have to rinse my stuff off ridiculously well. And I know you're not supposed to blast fresh water directly into a reel, but you can kind of do anything with your reel, which I kind of like.
And that's kind of where most of my setups are multi-purpose and faceted, where you can use them for all that. But the Van Stahl and that IMX, the rod's still light, but it has a heck of a lot of backbone. And I can cast,
insanely far.
And people don't believe me when I say that I can bomb a pencil 100 yards. I can.
It's pretty dang close.
Yeah, I can definitely get it super far. And the nice thing about that is I cover more water.
Yeah.
I can get closer to the mangroves. I can do everything with that and still effectively catch fish.
How much drag is on that reel? Again, when you're talking like freshwater or inshore, like, does it really matter? But like in a situation where you're trying to winch a fish out of under the mangrove, especially like a big snook, 25 pounds. Okay. So it's
more than that though. I know it is, because when you lock it down, like, it doesn't move.
Yeah.
Like there's no movement.
You're just gonna break your line.
And I've used it. I recently remember that snook that I told you about that I hooked north of us.
Yeah. Supposedly.
Supposedly. It was the biggest snook I've ever hooked in my life.
Over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was closer to 50 than it was 45. It was giant. And I caught it on that setup.
On a top water. Throw top waters.
Yep. And it was right next to the board. Should have jumped in and bear hugged it. I didn't, and it went for the mangroves and broke off. And that kind of leads me to the next thing, is my leaders that I use on that. I use very light leaders. I use 25 pounds, and that's it. The reason why is because it's still a little bit thinner than 30, but a little bit heavier than 20. And I think that extra 5 pounds does help me catch fish, because they're not as leader shy, but I can put a little more pressure on them. Yeah. And then I use long leaders too. I use 6 foot plus leaders.
You tie FG knots though. I typically tie a double uni. I can tie an FG. I can tie a bimini, but it takes me like 20 minutes. You can tie an FG with your eyes closed in like 30 seconds.
Not just doing it over and over and over
right.
again.
And I just haven't committed the time to do it.
Yeah.
But I like, so you can reel it up through your eyes. Mm-hmm. I don't because, so I tie like at the most, it's like a 3-foot leader at the most. But if I'm using a pencil, it's like maybe 16, 18 inches at the most because I like a shorter leader with a lure, any lure, but specifically topwater. But you tie a knot that allows you to reel it through. It's flat.
And I think the reason why I can cast so far is because of that.
You can load it, yeah.
And that extra weight from the fluorocarbon leader, I think helps a lot too with bombing those baits. I mean, I really do, because I can reel it all the way into almost to the reel and cast it, and there's just so much more momentum and weight behind it. I can cast it forever. Yeah. So that's my typical everyday inshore setup, because that's kind of how we fish.
Right.
I do have a 4000 Stella that I use for cut bait and live bait.
One of the older Stellas.
One of the older ones.
On an 8-foot rod, right?
On an 8-foot medium heavy, avid inshore.
Yeah.
And then I have some 5K twin powers that are on 8-foot heavy, legends and avid inshores, and then an 8K twin power that I have on an 8-foot.
Yeah, you're getting into the offshore stuff a little bit. / tarpon fishing.
A little bit, but the thing about all of my setups is they're multi-use. I use them for everything.
Yeah.
And that's how I wanted when I created these setups. I didn't want to just have to have a setup to where, well, I can only fish with finger mullet in the summer or the winter. No, I want to be able to take this offshore and catch a snapper with it. I want to take it inshore and use it for redfish. I want to get my money's use out.
Definitely.
Because if you spend this much money on these setups, which, I mean, the Stella and that rod, I mean, that's what, $1,200 or something like that.
More than that.
But
oh yeah, you're right. But your Van Stahl.
Yeah, but the Van Stahl is $900.
That's $980 or so, and then you got a $400 rod on there. So that's a very high price inshore setup.
It is, but the thing about it is, I can take it offshore and I can use it for snapper.
Right.
I can use it for all of these other situations that I get my money's worth out of it, which is, I think, the most important thing.
On products, like I hate it when people use the term like investment, or like if they're buying a car, this is an investment. No, it's not an investment. It's a depreciating asset.
Yeah.
Fishing stuff is kind of similar, but like but yet at the same time, it's like you could sell all your T-bores probably for what you bought them for, if not more, and make money. So it's like an investment, kind of like guns in a way. Like a lot of it, the specialty stuff will appreciate with time. I think I represent more along the lines of the everyday guy fishing.
I would agree. Yeah.
I just don't really, the flashy side of it doesn't, like, don't get me wrong, my inshore setup is really nice, and it's $600, $650.
Yeah.
It's a nice setup. This is the nicest setup I've ever had. If I could do it over again, would I buy the twin power over, like, let's say a Stratic? No, I'd buy a Stratic. Like because I don't like the twin power or I like the Stratic more, but because for an extra $120, is it worth it to me? No.
Yeah. And I would agree with you on that one. If this stuff wasn't worth the money, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy a twin power. I wouldn't buy a Stella. But they've done everything I've needed it to and then some. Yeah. I mean, with all of the, again, I'm very tough on my stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think a 5,000 Stratic would have held up to what I've put my 5K twin power through. I really don't.
A 5K Stratic?
Yeah. I don't think it would have. Because I've caught grouper on that.
Well, how old is that Stella, though? Did you say Stella or twin power?
Well, the Stella, too. But the twin power I bought 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that Stella is from 2016, 2015. I was going
to say that Stella's pretty old.
And it's still just as smooth as the day I bought it.
Think of what the Stratic was in 2016 or 15 whenever you bought that. They were not the same as they are today, especially the new one. The FL is a phenomenal reel. And again, most of charter captains that come in here that we do big orders with, that's what they fish.
Yeah.
2,500 and 3K and 4K Stratics, because for the money, you probably can't beat that reel.
For sure.
For an inshore setup. Again, for the money. If you want to go bougie with it and get, make it 3 ounces lighter and get a twin power XD, or if you want to spend the extra money even from there to get a Stella, like it just, to me, it's just not worth it to me. I can spend my money on other things, and that's fine with me. So I keep it somewhat simple. I kind of adopt the same principle offshore. I have some Speedmasters, and when I say I mean like me and my brothers and my dad share them. But again, the amount of offshore fishing that we do, not much anymore. We have some 12 2 speeds and some 16 2-speed Speedmasters. And again, for the money, super good reel. Would highly recommend it. The rods, I won't even tell you what the rods are because they're junk and they're the worst reel seats on the planet. They suck.
Oh man, yeah, they're not the best.
But we're not even gonna
they get the job done though. Really, at the end of the day, they do, but they're not.
Yeah, with a Mickey Mouse freaking reel seat on it. But neither here nor there. You know, they were complimentary, so I won't bash it. Yeah, I know they weren't, but I mean they were to me. So, but again, yeah, it's like you said, they get the job done. You know, I've pulled on some larger grouper and larger red snapper and some AJs before. They're just fine. So,
do you feel like though with the Speedmaster, you wish you had something a little extra though with bigger fish?
I don't have enough experience with other equipment to say that. Now, that being said, you have a Talica, and I'll let you get into that. But I did use it the other day when we were out. Yeah. And I think if grouper was in season, we would have been out targeting grouper more. Yeah. And we would have actually committed the time to go, we're going grouper fishing. Yes. I think I could have put it to the test and been like, yeah, there's something pretty nice about this. But like even just playing with the reels here at the shop, like the Talica, there's no play. That thing is super tight. And when I say play, I mean like the handle. Like there's no, like when you reel it forward, it like stops immediately. Yeah. There's no back play with it or anything. It just locks right down. The only thing I would say, like, I don't think we need 2 speeds. Like, I really don't. Not over here. I mean, in the deep water, I get it.
It's nice.
It's nice to have, but it's like a sunroof. It's like, will I remember to use it? No, but my reel might have it. But to spend the extra money on a 2-speed here, not for the type of fishing I do. So, sure, is it nice if I was in 300-400 feet of water and I was having to reel something up and I wanted 5 feet of line per crank? Yeah, it's great. But I've never used it. I probably never will. Yeah,
I've used it a few times on mine. So, and I guess that's where I can kind of transition into my stuff. So I have all of my conventional reels are Talicas. Yeah, 12, 16, 25s. And I bought it because I beat the crap out of them. Yeah. I have single speeds and 2 speeds. I use the single speeds more than anything. I like the size of it. I like the fit of it. It feels good in my hand. And my biggest grouper, which was 35 pounds, a gag grouper, was caught on that single speed Talica, and it was just fine. We were in shallow water, but it held up. And I got them up to the surface, and there was no issues.
What is shallow to you?
40 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's shallow for grouper fishing.
I would agree with that.
Now, of course, up north from us in Homosassa or wherever, they can do it in like 8 feet and all that stuff. Yeah, you can do it for sure. But for our area, 40 feet is shallow. You know, once you start getting out to like 70 plus feet, that's when it starts to like, I feel like that's like offshore fishing. Like that's grouper fishing, you know. But that 40 foot and under
that water gets that real nice blue, deep blue hue to it.
Yeah, that bluish hue.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice.
It is a nice thing. So yeah, all my conventional reels are Talicas. All of my rods, all of my offshore rods, spinning and conventional, are Terezes. The reason why is because they're the lightest, they're the strongest. There's no issues with them. I enjoy holding it all day, and that's I think the biggest thing for all conventional stuff is that you want to carry something and hold something that it's not going to beat you up all day.
I kicked that by mistake.
So
make sure it's not misaligned.
Oh geez, we messed up the camera. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Back at it. No, but I can hold that Terez and that Talica all day and not get beat up.
I do like that Terez.
They're freaking nice, man.
But I don't know if it's like a really nice rod, but I know I'm using like the worst rod.
Yeah.
So Terez is freaking nice.
Could you spend more money on an offshore rod? Yeah, but for $299, that's the best rod in the shop. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I agree with what we carry. That's definitely the best offshore option, where I go to first every time.
And then all of my spinning reels are Shimano, and that's where the multi-aspect of using reels and rods for different situation comes into play, because I have the bigger twin powers. I have that I use for free lines, that I use for snapper. I've got grouper on them too, Kobe and all that. And then probably my favorite setup for offshore is my hogfish setup. So I use the 4K Stella on an 8-foot medium heavy avid that I use for cut bait for redfish, and I've caught more hogfish on that setup than anything else because it's super sensitive and it catches fish. I love it. That's probably the one setup that I always pick up when I'm out there. And again, it's the things that I have were pricey, but they've lasted me these however many years I've had them.
Yeah.
And I think that the investment, if you want to call it an investment, was worth the money.
Yeah.
So, and I like it. I like the 25 Talica for trolling for bigger plugs. I've used that for grouper as well, but it's definitely heavier for sure. Typically, I'm picking up those smaller Talicas and using that for everything that we do around here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think I don't think we're on two totally separate ends of the spectrum.
No,
I just
not
think
on that.
like for our lifestyles and what we can do, it's like, sure, go spend a boatload of money on setups. Like we have plenty of guys that come in here and will drop a lot of money on really, really nice equipment, and they'll have a lot of it. And if you got it and it doesn't change your lifestyle and this is what you want to do, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
But I think what we've opened ourselves up to more, especially in our new location, is we wanted to keep the higher end feel of the fishing stuff, but also be able to communicate to people that you don't have to buy poor quality equipment that's cheap. We have stuff that's, again, what I would call cheap, that's still really good. We have the $90 Revros Calico Jack combo.
It's money.
I would fish with that thing in a
course.
heartbeat.
Yeah. The biggest thing though is it's the salt water. You have to take care of it.
Definitely.
But more so than
But that's
anything
everything.
else.
Stratics aren't sealed. You got to rinse it off.
Yeah.
Twin Powers aren't sealed. You got to rinse it off. So, well, not mine, at least.
Technically, there is a seal in it, but the difference between the seal of a Van Staal and the seal of a Shimano is totally different.
Yeah, completely
and that's
different.
where it kind of varies.
So there's partially sealed and there's fully sealed,
Yes.
right? So
I guess you could say that, yeah.
So but neither here nor there. I think what we've come to the conclusion of is for $100, we found a really good setup out there for people that don't want to go out and spend $1,000 on a spinning setup.
Yeah, even 300. I mean, $100 and you're ready to go.
100%, and it's still good quality. And I think that's something that we wanted to make sure. Like, hey, we don't want to be a Walmart where you go in and you buy, this cheap tackle box with stuff that you're never going to use that doesn't work. On a $19, $19.99, setup. Like, we don't sell that. That stuff's junk. Like, we don't sell that stuff. We wanted to make sure, though, that, hey, if you are going to spend a little bit of money, you're going to get a good product. But at the same time, something that we would all use if need be. So, yeah, I think we kind of fall somewhat on different ends of that spectrum.
A little bit.
Not by like
not by
choice,
a lot,
just because, hey, I like the nice stuff too, but I don't really care at the end of the day. Should we put our hats on?
I think it's time to don the garments.
Yeah, let's don the garment. Let me ask you a question.
Let's hear it.
What do you know about cryptids?
Cryptids. Well,
I'm not talking about like cryptocurrency. I'm talking about cryptids.
I would consider myself a amateur cryptozoologist, if you would.
Freaking out.
I know it's delicious. I would say I'm a cryptozoologist by not trade, just by volunteer though. I volunteer my time as a cryptozoologist. Yeah. What do you got for me?
What does that have to do with cryptids?
Cryptozoology is the study of cryptids.
Right. Okay. So sorry, I had a mental moment there, brain fart. There's a few places on this world,
yes,
okay, that are unexplored per se.
Yeah.
Taking the ocean out of things.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a land-based theory here, not theory, but more of a.
Are you going where I think you're going?
Probably.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea is one of them.
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with Forrest Kalante? Obviously.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forrest Kalante, the crazy nerd that travels all over the world and discovers all these species and the feces and all this stuff. So, do you think Bigfoot's real? I'm just going to come right out with it. Do you think the Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Sasquatch, the skunk ape, you can lump them all together? They're just like Americans to me. Like, there's Northeast Americans, there's California Americans, there's
part cousins.
There's South America. Not South. I mean, South America's a place too, but I don't mean I mean like Southern Americans.
Yes.
And then there's Florida, which is kind of like a melting pot of all of it. But it's like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. They're all like those Southern people.
Yeah.
And Texas, maybe you sprinkle it in. And then California people is like, we all know what California people are. And there's the Northeast people. We kind of all know what the Northeast is. New York, New Jersey, Sopranos, people like that. I feel like the Sasquatch,
Yes.
the Yeti, I think it's the same type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The skunk ape is down here in the South, right?
Yes.
Hanging out in the bayous,
Yeah.
hanging out in the Everglades. Probably smells worse than, the people that hang out in the cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's real?
So I will answer your question. Yes, I do. I think that it is real. What? That's like...
You just definitively said yes, I think it's real.
But there's only a few places on Earth that it could be real. And I think that's where it's super important.
That's why I brought up Papua New Guinea.
Yes. So...
Something very unique about Papua New Guinea.
Yes. And that is one of the places where I think that a Sasquatch... A
cryptid,
ape-like, bipedal organism could and that's where the cryptozoology comes into play.
Bipedal.
Bipedal. That means they walk.
Does that mean they have two wieners? Oh, okay.
Not mean they have two wieners. Okay. Yeah, they might. I don't know. But I think that's one of the places where it could live. There's only a few other places that it could live.
Yeah, and I would say like the vastness of Siberia, right?
Russia, yep. So Russia, I think, is one of the other ones. So the Black Forest in Russia, you could literally fit like the entirety of the United States in it.
Rewind Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
I want to tell you my theory on why I
it.
think Papua New Guinea could hide a lot of unknown species, like Skull Island, let's say. Like the whole freaking, like, take King Kong, like, take Skull Island and like turn into a place. I think it's like partially Tasmania, mostly Papua New Guinea. We have, when I say we, let me just loop this all together. Europeans, let's rewind, a couple of 100 years. Go back to the time when we just wanted to conquer everything. We tried to introduce, as well as like Aboriginals, Africa, like they tried to like introduce things and settle in Papua New Guinea, and there was natives there.
Yeah.
Nothing survived.
No.
Because the landscape is so crazy. Plenty of native life there, but basically everything in Papua New Guinea is native, and it stayed native because it's such a tough place to survive. So like dingoes, for example.
Yeah. The dingo ate my baby.
Yeah, that dingo ate my baby. They again, whoever, I don't think it was like, I think it was like European Australians like back in the day. So like white people that had been in Australia that were still exploring, but like they took dingoes to Papua New Guinea and tried to like, make they all died. Because they couldn't survive the terrain and the native populations of animals that were there. They were just getting smoked. So it's like putting it's like putting a chicken in a aquarium full of piranhas. Like it's just not going to work. So that's a bad example. That's a little extreme. But not in essence, what I'm telling you is a small dog.
Yeah.
Okay, that hunts in packs. That's wildly successful in a continent that may or may not exist. Australia may or may not. You know anybody that's been to Australia?
Yeah.
That's another episode too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think Papua New Guinea could be a place that could house something we've never seen.
Yes.
That we didn't know existed, even before like prehistoric stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those, if not the only, and I think there's parts of the Amazon that are like that too. I think Amazon is more of like lost tribes and people that are extinct or things that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Not necessarily crazy like creatures. Like, there's probably crazy things that we haven't discovered. There are animals down there, but like snakes, right? Not bipedal.
I think that's where I differ on you. So there's a few places where I think that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, whatever you want to can exist. Yeah. So Papua New Guinea or Indonesia. Indonesia is that chain of islands is huge. I mean, and that's kind of, I would lump that together.
Okay.
Russia, because Russia's freaking huge.
Because Russia. That's all you got to say.
There's things
because Russia.
Because Moscow. And
nice
then,
hat, by the way.
Thank you.
That's a Red Army special.
Yeah. The Amazon.
Yeah, definitely.
So the Amazon jungle, you can fit the entirety of India in.
Yeah, huge.
That's a big place.
Huge.
And then the other one, I think the Everglades could possibly house something weird, but it's kind of a far-fetch. The other one, though, would be like North America, like Canada, like all Alaska.
Yeah, like the Rocky Mountains, let's say, the Yukon. Yeah. So have you seen like the upper parts of Canada into like the Northwest Territories, the Yukon, British Columbia, like way up in there before you get to Alaska?
Yep.
Nothing.
There's nothing up there.
Nothing but mountains and wilderness and gold. Yeah. That's about all that's up there. And people getting beheaded on rivers and whatnot.
That's a good one,
That's
too.
a good story, yeah.
Let's go back to the Amazon real quick, though. So there, like you said, there's uncontacted tribes. There are things, and that's like 100% known. Like there's still people out there that we've never even talked to.
Right, that think they're the only thing that exists.
Exactly.
That don't know any life beyond the trees that are surrounding them.
So a lot of these things live in basins and these, essentially a giant bowl in the rainforest that is untouched.
Right.
There's a theory that these uncontacted tribes, hear me out, they keep giant ground sloths safe. That is what they were there for. That is very similar to like a Bigfoot, like in that size. So there could be things like that there that we don't know about.
So I watched like one of Forrest Galante's like specials where he was looking for giant sloths. He believes they exist.
Yeah, because of the landscape itself.
But like where he falls on that, he's like, that's where I don't go past. He doesn't go past that. I don't know where I'm at on this because I think if it existed in North America, we would have seen it by now.
Well,
I know there's big areas, but there's almost 400 million people that live in just the United States alone. North into like the Northwest Territories, is there something crazy up there? Like, I think there's crazy things in each sect of the animal kingdom. There's crazy big fish. There's crazy big mammals.
Yep.
Look at an elk.
Yep.
Elk is at 1,200 pounds. A moose, bears, giant. I believe there's giants that fit into that class, but like a humanoid, more intelligent, stinky, makes crazy noises. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
wouldn't we have seen it by now?
Well, we have. So think about this. Okay. So we've already talked about the Amazon and that the landscape itself, the Amazonians.
Nice folk.
It's big enough to where it could hide something like this. I mean, like literally, like Graham Hancock, you know who Graham Hancock is, has talked about the ruins that they find with the LiDAR. Giant cities that have been untouched for thousands of years that they just accidentally stumble upon. And it's not like they were far away from where they were originally.
Right.
They walk down a path and then they come upon a giant city.
Right.
So if that can hide there, why couldn't something 10 or 12 feet tall hide there as well? And that's kind of where my theory comes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying definitely in that world, but at some point you would have to think that, again, maybe I'm totally off my rocker thinking that something like that could hide down there. It's had to have seen a person before.
Of course.
If a person's not seen it, maybe hunted it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's smart enough to realize that it's somehow related to us.
I mean,
that it would have made some kind of news, like
true.
My child was eaten by a Bigfoot type of a thing.
Well, that's where I think we get to the next segment of North America. So we are all very familiar with the video, and I think you were talking about the Colorado video of the Sasquatch walking.
Yeah, the blurry guy.
The blurry guy.
Yeah.
Okay, and that brings another part of it, too. So that video was filmed in the 60s along a creek bed, and the interesting thing about that is the way that it walked is no human being could make that stride, meaning that a person in a suit could physically not be able to walk like that. And they also just recently kind of like fixed the video and made it not blurry. The Bigfoot has boobs. So it was a female. How did somebody back then
What if it was a dude with boobs?
Maybe it was. But how did somebody back then know, like I'm going to make this Bigfoot...
You remember in Beavis and Butthead where they're turning the page in the health book? Yeah. And it's like the picture of the lungs and Beavis like, that dude's got boobs.
Yeah, this dude's got
Maybe
boobs.
that dude's got boobs.
But, hey, it's possible. But why would somebody create a Bigfoot suit with boobs? Like, that's really like...
I mean, because if there's a guy that has enough... that doesn't have enough to do that he's going to create a Bigfoot suit, why wouldn't he throw a set of boobs?
That is true. That is true. The next thing, though, and I know you know about this too, is there's around the same time, it was like the 70s in the same area. It was like the northern part of, I think it was Colorado or Canada. I can't remember exactly. But it was these hikers that were going through the mountains. It was a group of them, and they found this like super remote area where they were going to climb this mountain, and they filmed the Bigfoot talking. The samurai, you remember that?
No.
Okay, so like they filmed Sasquatches.
I'm sorry, say this again. Like
they filmed Sasquatches.
What era was this?
This was in the 60s and 70s as well. And this group of guys were climbing mountains.
Did they also have boobs?
They might have had boobs, yeah. But they filmed these Sasquatch talking to each other across the mountain. And it was like some weird like
one was on one mountain and one was on another?
Yeah, they could hear them talking like to each other.
Maybe Bigfoot's are Japanese.
The frequency that they were speaking.
Oh yeah, it can't be replicated.
Cannot be
whatever.
replicated.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of weird.
That stuff's all BS.
Yeah, but they sound like samurais. They're like, wait.
Well, so there's only of all of the pictures and all, like it's like Mitch Hedberg said, maybe the reason all the pictures of Bigfoot are blurry is because maybe Bigfoot really is blurry.
Well,
and there's
I
a
think
blurred monster. That's scarier.
And I think that brings the next thing is if Bigfoot is real, is it a interdimensional traveling being that is blurry?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm not, but I kind of am at the same time.
Okay.
This is the only one that actually piques some kind of like, I kind of believe this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying that there's not a possibility that something like that could exist. Like, I'm not a full-fledged denier, if you would. But I'm definitely not a full-fledged believer. However, there's a very interesting situation that happened. This happened in Canada. And to me, it's what actually happened to the person that creates that belief. Not the actual creature, but what the creature represents, if that makes sense. Let me get into it. The guy's name is Andrew. I forgot his last name.
No.
I'm not going to spoil what happens, but I'll tell you the whole I'm not going to spoil what happens right now. I'll tell you the story. So this dude is driving through, and again, I think it's British Columbia. Could be...
Yeah. Untouched land, man.
Right. So, beautiful, though. And he's driving down a road,
country.
And there's mountains in the background, and you can see this giant figure on one of these mountains. And again, he's not like 30 miles away from this. He's a couple of miles. So you could still see something. Like if there's a building up there, you could see it, like just for reference point. Like it's not like this thing is just, you can't see it with the naked eye and he saw it through binoculars, but like you could see that this thing was moving across these mountains.
Yeah.
Then
Doing the Bigfoot walk.
Then it disappeared. This guy called out. He knew exactly which mountain it was.
Yeah.
He decided he wanted to go up there and find out what it was. So, sick. Thank you.
Oh, man.
What a nice
Drinks?
guy. Wait a second.
Oh, you're a nice man.
That's good stuff right there. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Come again. So, dude drives up basically this old mountain road, like a logging road or something. And again, it's public property. It's a state park, national park, whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's public area. And again, there's idiosyncrasies in the story that make it seem like maybe it's just acting and maybe this was proposed. This guy was like a well-known viral TikToker, millions of followers, millions of views on his videos, things like that. And this really blew him up out of the scope, at least on TikTok. This was a few years ago. So he's driving down this road, and basically he's like, he's like live streaming it as he's doing it, and he's like, hey, there's this black Charger up here. There's a dude in a suit, and there's like the road's closed. Yeah. And you can hear the guy come up to the window, and he's like, you got to get out of here. Like, this is a closed area. And he's like, this is a public road. And he's like, no, this is closed. You need to get out of here right now. So he's like, he doesn't fight with the guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Tries to end up going back. Anyway, long story short, the guy basically becomes consumed with finding out what was going on top of this mountain. But there's also that same time frame that he sees what's going on. There's helicopters flying back and forth on this mountain. And again, you can't CGI all of that stuff. Yeah. Like, you can tell when it's fake. You can tell when it's real. Like, they're lifting stuff with ropes and helicopters off of this mountain. Same area that he saw this thing. But again, it's not like this construction project where they're like, we're going to build a house up here and we're just going to fly the lumber in. Yeah. Like, they were carting stuff away. It was closed down, like by government, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, this dude goes down this whole rabbit hole of trying to find out what's really going on there. And he keeps trying to go back. He runs into the same issues each time, basically, and again, it becomes way more tense than I'm making it sound as he goes, where he starts to fear what's going to start happening to him. So, but again, remember, he's getting millions of views on each one. He's live streaming this stuff on TikTok. So all of it's getting millions and millions of views as he's doing it. Guy goes radio silent for a couple of weeks. Nothing gets posted, whatever. And again, this is this guy's job. He gets paid to do TikTok and this stuff. And he goes radio silent for like 2 weeks. Comes out with this video. It's just him sitting in a chair. Are you familiar with this, by the way? Have you heard this story?
I know. Yeah, I think we've talked about this a few times.
Just a white background. Yeah. And he basically says he apologizes for posting it all.
Yeah.
And says that it's all fake. One thing that, so I watched this like reaction video to this video, and this guy was like, one thing that like freaks me out is you can see his eyes. He keeps going. So if the camera's right in front of him and he's looking at the camera, just like I'm looking at you, he keeps looking up, like up and to the left, like he's looking at someone or something, but not like he's reading something, more like he's looking at somebody's like either approval or disapproval of whatever he's saying. So he makes this video. Dude dies.
Bigfoot killed him.
There's like a legit obituary.
Yeah.
Like this guy died. So nobody knows how. Nobody knows why. All we know is he's dead. That's the only thing where I would be like, is the guy lying? Did the guy stumble across something he shouldn't have? But like at the same time, it tells me like he wasn't the only guy that like maybe drove up that road to try and find out what was going on. But maybe because he had such a big audience because of what he did, I don't know. All to say, if there is a Bigfoot, if there is a creature that's like this, some kind of giant cryptid, the government knows about it.
Of course, yeah.
And maybe they shot it. Because, I mean, look, you've heard the story of the ranger team that got like decimated by one of those red giants in Afghanistan. Yeah. And like the middle of nowhere. Yeah, the Nephilim. There you go. Yeah. They're in the Bible.
They are. Yeah.
And like they got killed.
Bigfoot's in the Bible.
Is he?
Nephilim. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, he's got big feet.
Yeah, he's got big
feet. But the
feet,
Nephilim is like, aren't they like red haired?
They are. Yeah, they're red haired. Yeah. So, no, Bigfoot's real. He's definitely real. And he can live in only a few places. So I think we've come to that conclusion.
Well, okay. So I guess the only other thing, I said the only thing that would make me skeptical about it, meaning believe. There's one other thing. All these ancient peoples that like draw stuff in caves and on trees and like leave stuff around, they all have some kind of giants that they were running from, fighting.
Well, I mean, there was the Native Americans in out west that they had the same thing. They had stories of them fighting giants, and then they found that one crypt, remember? And I think it was Arizona.
In a mine. It was like New Mexico or Arizona or something. Yeah, I remember that.
And the
guy's like 9.5 feet tall.
Yeah, they found bones of giant human beings.
Not just bones, like full like mummified bodies.
Full mummified bodies.
It was a full family.
Yep.
It was kids. It was a male and a female. Yep. And I remember they have them in the tombs. There's that crazy picture of that dude like laying next to one with his hands like this. So
giant.
So that's a whole nother crazy story.
But I mean, hey, look, if that's real, Bigfoot's real. I mean,
but that was supposedly like a whole tribe that they were cannibals and they were banished basically from some Indian tribe. And again, I don't know which tribe it was. Yeah. But basically that this other tribe warred with these people. And that even that, you know, at one point they were all together. They all were living together in harmony. And then they started like eating. The giants started like eating people.
Frick.
Like, I don't know if it was eating. I think it started out like kind of benign, if you can talk about cannibalism being benign. It was like they would eat their dead and things like that. And then the other Indians were like, hey, man, we don't do that.
Yeah, we don't want to know
this. We're out on this. Like, and you guys better be out on it too. And then eventually it boils over. It boils over. Yeah. And then they basically kick them out and they start warring back and forth with each other. But
dang. Oh. That would suck to fight a giant. That'd suck to fight Bigfoot. Bigfoot's probably really strong. He's probably fast too. So
Bigfoot doesn't believe in you either.
That's exactly. No. So
anything else?
No, I think we've come to the conclusion that Bigfoot is real.
Yeah, definitely.
So 100%. I think that we're good here. So yeah.
Think we'll do one more episode before Christmas?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Well, because we have something special to show everybody.
Special, yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely do it.
It ain't that special, but it's pretty special.
It's pretty special. Yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Be a good dad.
Okay.
See you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Hey, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you, by the way. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. Leave comments. Everything helps us if you enjoy this type of entertainment, because we do. Thank you very much.